Before we start with our reading selection, let's review some of the vocabulary that was in your story yesterday. Remember, they're the words cruise, tunnel, and burrow. And I am going to read a sentence, and I am going to say blank where I'm leaving out one of these words. So you tell me which one of these three words would fit in the sentence, which one the sentence is missing. All right, you ready? The mountain blank goes through to the other side. Which one of those would work? The mountain blank goes through to the other side. Right, the mountain tunnel goes through to the other side. Let's try another one. The boats blank across the lake. The boats blank across the lake. Which word would fit best? Cruise, tunnel, or burrow? The boats blank across the lake. Right, cruise. The boats cruise across the lake because cruise means to move over water. All right, here's your last one. The gophers blank under the ground. The gophers blank under the ground. Cruise, tunnel, or burrow? Right, burrow. The gophers burrow under the ground. Perfect. And before we start, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit, build a little background here, and talk about the things, parts of weather that we know are there even when we can't see them, because that's what our poem is going to be about today. A part of weather that's there even though we can't see it. And I wanted to give you an example because the sun and the moon are always in the sky, even if we can't see them. We can't always see the moon. Sometimes we can see the moon during the day, but a lot of the times we can't see the moon during the day, but it's still up there. And the same for the sun at night. If this is the part of the earth that you're living on, remember, earth is the planet that you live on. If this is the earth, it's dark at night because the sun is on the other side of the earth, and there's our moon. So even though we can't see the sun at night, it is still up in the sky. So there are other things, and you'll hear one in just a minute, that exist in weather that you can't always see. Now, your essential question to be thinking about is, how do you know the wind is there? And I think I just gave away what we're going to be looking at, and that is the part of weather that you can't see is the wind. You can't see it, but you know it's there, right? So how do you know the wind is there? Now, I told you we were reading another poem. And remember, in poems, words that rhyme are often used. Sometimes words may be repeated. We call that repetition, right? And sometimes sentences are broken into parts, and each part is on a line of its own. So it's not necessarily a sentence. You see, the first sentence doesn't end here down here till line 3, and you can see it because it has a period at the end. But there's 3 lines in that poem before the first sentence ends. So it's broken up the sentences into its own to different lines. So we are going to be reading a poem today. And to understand the poem, we're going to be using the comprehension strategy, making connections. And when you're making connections while you're reading the poem, you're going to use your own experiences to make sense of the descriptions in the poem, to help you understand what the poet is describing. You're going to make connections to what you already know, to what you've already experienced. All right, and I already mentioned that the poet is someone who writes poetry, and it just so happens this poet is the same poet as the last one that we read. This one is called The Wind, and it's by Myra Cone Livingston. And again, it's kind of written as a riddle because she never really says wind except for in the title, but she describes the wind. So let's go ahead and read and try to make some connections to our poet here. You never see me, yet you know whenever I come out to blow. Now, good readers make connections between what they already know and the text or the illustration. So in the photograph, I see a girl with a kite and people with their hair being blown back. And as I read, I come out to blow, I've often heard the phrase, the wind is blowing. I'm going to continue to read to see if I can make any other connections to the wind blowing. You never see me, yet you stay to watch me at my wild play. You never see me, yet you hear my mournful music in your ear. Now, I can make another connection to the wind blowing. I can make the connection to that mournful music or sad sounds. I remember one time when I heard the wind make a sad, like whistling sound right before a big rainstorm. So, making this connection to the way the poet wrote these words helps me think about wind in a new way. So, I also wanted to revisit the parts of the poem that we talked about. So, let's see if it has any rhyming words. You never see me, yet you know whenever I come out to blow. Did you hear a rhyming pair? No. Blow. They rhyme. They sound alike. You never see me, yet you stay to watch me at my wild play. Stay and play are a rhyming pair. They sound alike. They rhyme. You never see me, yet you hear my mournful music in your ear. Hear, ear. Another rhyming pair. So our poem definitely has rhyme, and we already talked that the lines are broken apart, the sentences are broken apart into different lines. Now, what about repetition? Are there any words that repeat or phrases that repeat? You never see me. You never see me. You never see me. It definitely has repetition. Definitely has repetition in there. Now, there is another element of poetry that's in here. And here are elements of poetry. And the element of poetry that I want to call your attention to is this big long word, alliteration. Can you say alliteration? Yes, alliteration. And that means that the beginning sounds of words are repeated. So the repeating of beginning sounds like four friends found free food, kind of like in our tongue twister about Peter Piper. So let's see if our poem has any alliteration in it. And it doesn't have a lot, but if you check out this very last line, my mournful music in your ear. My mournful music in your ear. That does have some repeating sounds, right? My mournful music. And it kind of makes it more interesting to read. And when you read it, it sort of does kind of sound sad. It kind of draws it out. You never see me, yet you hear my mournful music in your ear. It kind of gives it a interesting sound. So our author our poet did use alliteration. Alliteration. Now, there is a vocabulary word that I want you to take a look at, and this is just the word never. Never. Never means at no time, not ever. And in our poem, it says, you never see me. So have you ever really seen the wind? No. You've seen the things that it can do. You've seen it blow things around, but you've never really seen the wind, right? All right. I will include the discussion starters for you to talk to your big person about. And if you want to read The Wind again, you can find it on your McGraw-Hill app.